Welcome and thank you for joining me whilst I introduce you to a fabulous new product that we're bringing online with Captain's Choice of this year. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to introduce you to Paspaley Pearl, and I've got two very, very special guests joining me to tell us about this brand new vessel in Australian waters. It's been some time that we've been looking for the right vessel to match our brand to show you some of the unique and wonderful places in both Australia and the Southwest Pacific, and this is the vessel for us. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you, like I said, to Paspaley Pearl, and there she is, arriving in Australian waters just a few weeks ago. Now, I will be speaking further with Sarina Bratton. You may have heard that name before, very experienced in expedition cruising. Most of you would probably know her from Orion Cruises, which Captain's Choice worked with for many, many years. So I'm absolutely delighted to be working with Sarina again and bringing to you two wonderful cruises for 2025. Mick Fogg, who has been also working with our team for a number of years, is the absolute expert of expedition cruising in this region. And Mick has worked with our team to develop two extremely unique itineraries that we will touch on in a bit more detail in just a few moments. Now, when you're traveling with Captain's Choice, as you know, everything is included. So rest assured, the Captain's Choice brand will perform as it usually does. What I'm absolutely delighted about with this ship is you can see it there. It's a maximum of 28 guests. So small group touring, expedition cruising, getting to places that the bigger ships simply can't get to. But as we always do, we include everything with Captain's Choice, so be assured that your tour manager and tour doctor are travelling with you. We'll have an expedition team of 4 experts on board every cruise. So work that out. 28 passengers, 4 experts. The ratio of 1 expert to 7 guests just doesn't exist in the industry. And as I keep saying, everything's included, and that's likewise when you're board the beautiful Paspaley Pearl. Sarina, as I said, you are probably the godmother of expedition cruising here in Australia. I'm not sure if that's the right term to use. But when I first came in the industry, you were running a very successful Orion Expedition cruising company that I was introduced to as part of Captain's Choice. You're now bringing a vessel that's even more unique and smaller into this market. Tell us about it.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Bas. And yes, it's a very, very, very exciting time for us. And I don't know if many people do know, but Paspaley were also investors in Orion Expedition Cruises. And so we've come together again to bring a different boutique experience, expedition experience to Australia and our close regions. So the beautiful Paspaley Pearl, you know, that image you showed was the line from the bow being the first contact back with Australia. So she's been away up in Singapore undertaking a very extensive refit. And I'm sure that you and your clients who join us will absolutely love this beautiful little ship. And the reason being that she's like your home. You know, we've made a really purposeful focus on making sure that you get this residential feel to the vessel. And I'm not aware of any other small vessel with 28 guests where you have an indoor restaurant, you have an outdoor restaurant, you have 3 lounges, 3 bars, a jacuzzi that can accommodate, what did you say, Mick? 10 people?
10 people.
10 people. And so just an enormous array of experiences that people can have with our team. So it's a very exciting time for us all.
I do love the term residential feel. That gives me a feeling of home. And let's just have a look at some of these images. And as you said, Sarina, the fact that you and your team have an indoor and outdoor restaurant that can actually take all the guests. So if everyone decides to eat outside, and of course you're going to have some locations where it's an absolute must, But there will be times where people are more comfortable inside and they can choose to do so. But the fact that you've set up the whole group to be in or out is just absolutely fantastic. A choice of different staterooms with balconies and without. But look at that. It's just so contemporary. It looks fresh. It looks light. It looks inviting.
And it has that feel. I was so pleased because we had the Paspaley family come and visit the ship just yesterday, and they were absolutely ecstatic at the warmth that we've been able to generate and bring to the vessel. And particularly, and it was one of their words about the residential feel, and that's what we had discussed that we were trying to achieve. And we've been working with an Australian stylist who has helped us do so. But you can see from the images here that you've got balcony staterooms and you've got without balcony, really beautifully fitted out. Beautiful lighting with those gorgeous pearl shell lighting that you could see. The bed linens are all new. There's new treatment right throughout. I think that everybody will be pleasantly surprised with the beauty that this vessel is going to bring. One of the things that we're waiting on right now is the artwork. So we've got all Indigenous artwork is coming onto the ship, and that's been sourced from up in Arnhem Land, Tiwi Islands, Central Australia, right throughout. And we intend to have like a little bit of an art story and walk around so people can get to understand the depth of art that we've actually brought on board the ship. We'll also have some amazing imagery black and white imagery from Frank Hurley, who is mainly known for his time in Antarctica. But these are when he spent time up in Papua New Guinea, and he's got extraordinary photos from there. And we've been able to acquire those together with the Paspaley dynasty and pearling experience. But no, it's everybody's excited. The crew are all getting on board. Things are being delivered every day. We've got a lot of furnishings coming in from Australia to come on board later today and tomorrow. So good, exciting times, Bas.
No, it sounds fantastic, and you would expect nothing less if the Paspaley family are involved to have the quality that you've just demonstrated there. I love the art. The art sounds amazing. I think that'll just be a feature amongst itself. And of course, let's have a look at the two wonderful itineraries that we're doing this year. Now, Mick, you've been involved in the industry for I'm not even going to guess how many years, and you are the go-to person when we talk about expedition cruising around Australia and the Pacific. Two itineraries that we've got. First one being the top end, so the top end Cape York. Tell us about some of the features that our guests are going to enjoy, but also give them a bit of a better understanding of how remote some of these destinations are.
Thanks very much for the introduction, Bas. I think what you've chosen as an itinerary is a really good choice to showcase the remote parts of Arnhem Land, Northern Australia, and the tropical regions of Queensland. Now, if we start with the Tiwi Islands, I mean, they're very close to Darwin, but very few people get there. And we get to experience the saltwater culture that is on both Melville and Bathurst Islands there. And of course, you've chosen Mount Borrowdale. You know, I was once quoted as saying, where would I pay to go for a holiday? And my standard answer is Mount Borrowdale. I think it's one of the great jewels in Australia. And for people who've been there, it stays with you forever. And I'm glad that we've been able to get it into the itinerary because it is just absolutely beautiful. You've then got the historic elements of places like Yirrkala. And so Yirrkala is the home of the Yidaki, or what everyone knows as a didgeridoo. So their spiritual home as well as the ancestral home of it. So I think Yirrkala is always a great heartwarming welcome into the local community, but one that's steeped in history and tradition as well. And across the top to Cape York. And what I like about your itinerary is we're going to venture off into Papua New Guinea, and we're still a few months away from the voyage, but the locals there are already excited to welcome the ship. And that's remarkable. They haven't had a ship into that area for many, many, many years. And then that was only a very small fleeting glimpse. So we'll be the first to go into the local village, which will be a remarkable experience. As I said, they're already so excited about receiving the vessel. Back into Cape York, down the spectacular Great Barrier Reef, of course, calling in at Forbes Island, and then the historical town of Cooktown before finishing in Cairns. So a great combination of culture, remote communities, spectacular rock art at Mount Borrowdale, and a little sojourn into PNG, which is wonderful.
Excellent. Mick, I think it's also just worth going back to the fact that, as I mentioned from the start, what really has me very excited is the size of the vessel, and just 28 guests, as we mentioned. But how much of a benefit is a small vessel on an itinerary like this, without having to run a number of zodiacs and tenders that the bigger ships have to run? How much easier does it become, and how much more access do we actually have?
It's incomparable. It really is. I think when you're dealing with only 28 guests, 4 naturalists, you've got all the time. You're not rushing to get to the next destination. You know, you can remain in an area and have discussions that can extend for a period of time without constantly having to look at your watch. You know, you can sit there and your guests are immersed in that, and they get more and more involved in it. Because you know what it's like when you're traveling to an area, your questions in your mind continue to arise the more time you spend there. You know, so we don't want to close that snapshot and say, okay, you're only here for 5 minutes, got to go. It's no, let's talk about this. And then they get more of that experiential travel and start to open their minds and have conversations. And you're going to have 4 experts with you. So those conversations can go in all sorts of directions, you know, and that time it's irreplaceable, and it's incomparable to any other product that's out there. And then that'll be the great advantage of it.
And part of expedition cruising is, of course, flexibility. And again, having that smaller vessel, it just allows you to duck away into some of these nooks and crannies that other vessels simply can't get near. So I think there's just a distinct advantage there as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we can take advantage of the unknown. That's the essence of a true boutique expedition. You know, we're not at that rigid timetable. And so that allows us to, you know, if we have a wildlife encounter, we can change the itinerary.
Yeah, great. Oh, fantastic. Well, let's have a look at the second itinerary, because there's a wildlife encounter that I'm sure we'll touch on as part of this itinerary. Now, isn't it ironic that we spoke about photos of Papua New Guinea and how difficult it is to obtain some great photos? Now, whilst we have 1, 2 or 3, these areas are not commonly visited. Some of the major ports are, but certainly the smaller ports that we're endeavouring to travel to on this itinerary are not regularly visited. So some of the photos, we just simply don't have any photos to put on the screen and show people where they're going. It is quite an adventure, this itinerary. Mick, it was great for you to put this together with our team. What are the highlights of Papua New Guinea and Indonesia? Leaving on the 7th of December. We are leaving in a late part of the year, but a great time to do it. You won't find any other vessels travelling at this time of the year in this region. So we've really got it to ourselves.
Oh, correct. You know, when I look at Papua New Guinea, I've been lucky enough to be travelling there for over 20 years. And I know that every remote village I've gone to, there's always another village chief from, 2 kilometres down the road that says, why don't you come to my village? You know, we've got this to offer, we've got that to offer. And that's Papua New Guinea. There's so many different remote locations you can choose from. And that was what was great about exploring the options on this itinerary with your fantastic team. You know, we've been able to put together some good iconic destinations as well as some new ones. And that is what's created this really good combination in Papua New Guinea. So we're looking at those fantastic warm welcomes, the spectacular sing-sings or welcome ceremonies that they have, that beautiful backdrop of those lush tropical rainforests and the friendliness of the people. And, you talk about the time of the year, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because for tropical people, sometimes people think, oh, are we there at the right time? It's the peak season to be in that part of the world. So
That's right.
the Raja Ampat and Cendrawasih Bay season that's done by all the small local liverboards is all between December and February. That's the prime time to be going. So it's where the seas are calmest. And, you know, when you're in the tropics, your chances of getting an afternoon rainstorm are 365 days of the year. So
That's
we're more
right.
worried about the water and the wind. And so that's the right time to be in that environment. And so when you come into somewhere like Cendrawasih Bay and you're doing that remarkable whale shark experience, it's second to none. It really is. I mean, I've been lucky enough to have experienced it a few times, and also comparing it to somewhere like the Australian experience at Ningaloo, which is fantastic, which is great, but not all people are capable of doing the Ningaloo experience because the whale shark's not sitting still. So
Yes.
most of the time it's swimming. And so for, you know, a lot of people that becomes quite challenging. Whereas in areas like Cendrawasih Bay, they're there in front of you. Like that photo clearly illustrates exactly what it's like. You're in this crystal clear water. It can be up to about 80 or 90 meters deep, but it is crystal clear. And you can see them coming from so far away. And they're just, it's majestical ballet that you're watching with these remarkable animals. And I know, Sarina, you got to experience that a couple of years ago, didn't you?
Oh, I did. It was absolutely one of the best highlights of my life. You have this enormous animal coming towards you with this huge mouth, but tiny little teeth and a tiny esophagus, so he has no interest whatsoever in eating you, right? They're the most placid, gentle giants you could ever imagine exist on Earth. Just remarkable.
I do have to say it is high on my bucket list. Let me tell
Oh,
you.
you must do it, Bas. You must do it.
I know. And just the images look fantastic, but to experience that in real life. And as you said, Mick, you've got to pick the right time to be there to have this encounter. And what about the Spice Islands coming around before we head off to Timor? The Spice Islands have got so much history.
Oh, it's remarkable. You know, we go and we just bypassed Raja Ampat, which is another massive highlight on the journey. You know, the four kings and the centre of marine biodiversity, and those beautiful cast island landscapes like the photo shows there. You know, but there's so many highlights in this voyage, we haven't got enough time to talk about them. So let's shift to the Spice Islands and look at that beautiful history. You know, I think it's an interesting one, isn't it? I've been so lucky to travel to so many places in my life, and there's a couple of places for me that are really, you know, homes in my heart, if I can say that, the places I feel the most relaxed. And one of them is the Spice Islands in Indonesia. So when you look at those destinations that have had over 400 years of tumultuous history, you know, we're being persecuted by all the European powers searching for spice. You get there and they're the most peaceful places. And they're beautiful. You know, the people are so welcoming, the backdrop, the volcanic landscape, you know, that beautiful verdant green peaks of volcanoes that are not active at the moment, and the people and the welcoming. And behind that is all this persecution and history. And it's just overwhelming. And I've always loved taking guests there and watching guests just stop halfway along a walk. And you can see their mind just trying to process all this of where they are, you know, on what was once the most, you know, valuable piece of real estate in the world. And today is this forgotten gem in the Indonesian archipelago that no one visits. You know, it's amazing.
It really is amazing. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. If that does not whet your appetite, then nothing will. Imagine those two cruisers aboard that beautiful, beautiful vessel. Congratulations to you both. The vessel looks fantastic. Our itineraries are absolutely spot on. And we look forward to working with you this year and many years to come to bring some great itineraries to our guests. Sarina and Mick, I thank you for your time. And we look forward to seeing you on board soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Bas.
Thank you, Bas.